I've been politically homeless for quite a long time. And basically, I believe that our current systems and institutions are made not to help the people, but to allow the people that want to be in power get that power. Because the only people that run for office are the people that want that power, and the same thing with greed.
And hold on to that power.
Yeah, and hold on for a very long time.
And crowd out anyone who actually wants to solve problems, because then you get rid of the, I don't know, the cause for what the issue is that you want to be solving.
And then, like any media I tried kind of consuming, whether it be MSM or, various channels, it's like they don't address our civic foundations or things that could do fundamental change, and instead it's like, well, what did Trump do yesterday? Was that completely evil? Was it the most evil thing possible, or was it the greatest, godliest thing possible? And that's kind of ridiculous. I think that flows down also to the people, because, people at work, the people around me, I describe them mostly as NPCs. Not that they can't critically think, but then it's just that's not in their mind on a day-to-day basis. They go through their normal lives thinking about the things they want to think about, but when it comes to more abstract issues, they just take the authoritative sources and what they're being told. So it's kind of hard. It's been hard, striking up a conversation with such people. You go to a family gathering, depending on your family, it's like you have to walk on eggshells. Like, no, we're not talking about that. Or it's like, are you really a follower of that mustache guy from World War II? Or are you a communist?
Yeah, there's so our modern American society that conceptualizes the only way to affect change is through government. And so people kind of stake their identities on, I guess they inevitably become cults of personality, that this is my totem, this is my football, this represents my agency, my motivations, what I care about, this person. And so I'm going to be on their team no matter what, because they're the hope of fixing all of these problems that I don't know how to solve. And so you become almost a proxy of morality, where you're going to defend the actions of a politician even when they do wind up doing something hypocritical or corrupt. And like you were mentioning, civics is kind of dead right now in America, and it's a really important idea. It's one of, I have a responsibility and a duty as a unit of my community to contribute to it. And people when they have a issue that they want to solve, they always default back to, well, we just have to vote the right people in. Yeah. And you become so impotent and lost by just staking your hopes on this representative to solve these problems, when you could be solving these problems, and you could be finding purpose in your life. And us as social creatures, a lot of our positive emotion is tied up in, are we of use to our neighbors? Yeah. And I don't think that there's a coincidence that people are depressed and alienated, isolated, don't trust each other, or just to the point of, well, it's safe to interact with you on a transactional basis. Right. I can order, Uber Eats from you, but that's about as far as our relationship's going to go if it's not the friends that you built a foundation with through school. Yeah. And it's like you get this seeded group of friends this group of friends that is seeded to you. These are your relationships, your stock for the remainder of your life, and they slowly age out, die out, and no one knows how to find common spaces and common causes and interests and build things
or people
together.
That will support that as well, because I think that's a very good point, is that you've got your own structured community, almost like your safety zone, like a cat goes out exploring, but anytime it gets hurt or anything, it goes back into its little cave or wherever it feels secure. And I think we've kind of got that socially going on. There's like anything I hear that contradicts what I believe or my ideas, it's like, oh no, I got to go back to my support group of people that are close to me that think the same things as me. Okay, what about your background? You want to go?
Yeah, I think we touched on we have kind of the same background where we both feel politically homeless. We're frustrated with this idea of I am going to place my stock for affecting change in a politician. Right. Because representatives, if assuming they aren't corrupt and they're actually doing their job, they're only going to represent you with 1 over the population that they're representing. That's their stake in actually meeting your needs. Yeah. So if you have a city of 1 million people, that mayor only is invested in your personal needs to 1 over 1 million if they're doing their job. And so how about how much you can advocate for yourself? That's 1 over 1. And yeah, that quickly gets into it quickly evokes the idea of rugged individualism, which we find insufficient, because the fact is there are people who can't solve their own problems, who need mentorship, who need guidance, or just they do not have the faculties, I guess the political or the human capital to solve their own problems. Or even
they're capable, but they weren't raised to learn like most people do from their parents.
And so people who want to minimize government usually just fall into the rugged individualist camp.
Right.
And we find that insufficient because those people are still going to be there with their problems. And if you aren't there to address those problems and help those people out, help them be integrated and continue to be part of society, first off, you get antisocial reaction to that. So shooters are people who've completely fallen out of society. They feel completely rejected, and they want to exact revenge on a society that rejected them too. But on the more docile side of that, people who are out, who've been failed by our society, they still have problems, and those problems don't go away. And if the community doesn't take on those problems and ownership of them, then those people don't have any choice but to go through the avenue of government. And you are giving, if you're someone who is trying to minimize the influence and the, I guess, monopoly of government on solving problems and how we conduct ourselves in society, then you need to realize that any problems that you let just go unattended, you're relinquishing to the government to have ownership over those problems. And so the government has not only a monopoly on these problems, but almost all of our problems right now, because nobody is there to help each other. No one's there to care beyond transaction. And that's not how this country always was. And so we're trying to restore that idea of civics.
Right. Exactly. And, well, this kind of goes together, but our background, we met like, what, 6 years ago, 7 now? Something like that.
2017. So
6-ish, right?
Wait, no, that's not right, is it? Why is my math like, it's 2025?
Yeah, but till
like 8 years ago.
I think it was like June of 2020. Well, whatever.
Yeah, okay.
It's somewhere around there.
A while ago. Yeah.
And we both realized this. We had many conversations, and then you had, I think you originally had the idea of like an application that can bring these things together, these people together, and discuss the ideas in a fair way, in a constructive way, and to not synergize, because we both hate the word, synthesize our ideas in a way that, everybody could be happy, or not necessarily that. But And then we talked about possibly like a websites and different ways we could interact. And the way things kind of go, why this platform is because if you are somewhat of a perfectionist, and depending on your profession, is that we'd always, I was just watching a creator today, and they said, well, the thing why people never get going is because they keep on planning out meticulously more and more, and then they never actually do the things, you know?
Well, and what is that insurpassable chasm? Why is it that people are so afraid to... They're motivated enough to conduct a plan. Why don't they ever actually act?
That's a good question. That's a question that could be brainstormed at some point, because that's like...
I think it's because people are humble, and you get,
True.
You get these academic assholes who, what are you doing talking about this subject matter that you don't that you're not credentialed in?
That's true.
Don't you know how irresponsible that is?
Does that make us, have we suddenly become narcissists because we talked about doing this and now we're doing this? Because I think most are partially somewhat narcissist creators and people that want to be on broadcast media for the MSM.
There's the idea that confident people project competency, and there's two possibilities: either you genuinely are competent, or you are a con man, a confidence man, right? And I don't think it's narcissism where we're coming from. I think we're engineers, and that's how we met each other. And you quickly learn how to critically think. You learn that school doesn't teach critical thinking, and you learn how to problem solve. And a necessary ingredient to problem solving is attempting to do something that you don't have figured out completely from the onset. You make mistakes, you adjust from there. And we're kind of trained in our school to, this is a field that you're not trained in, do not touch it. If you make mistakes, it's not only you're not only going to look like a fool, you're going to be irresponsible and actually enact harm on people.
Right.
Which is ridiculous. And that idea, I think, is probably one of the most poisonous to the idea of civics, and why inevitably civics has kind of evaporated from American society.
Yeah. We briefly we already discussed some of our goals, or what the reasons we're doing this, but what our goals are long term. This is kind of there's going to be overlap between us here, but at the same time, me would be not just to, I don't want to be one of these guys that's like telling people. We discussed before, like a show don't tell, but that's also not just for like us explain to people. We want other people's ideas, right? Mm-hmm. If someone's have novels ideas, we also want to support those ideas and even promote those ideas, or gatherings or neat things they're doing. Besides having these conversations, and then coalesce them at some point it's another platform possibly, or some other mechanism where everybody feels that their ideas are heard or incorporated, at the very least heard, instead of giving lip service by having, possibly read comments, possibly not. Oh yeah, I saw your comment, or like a super chat. Oh, thanks for the $5 super chat, and then a shout out. It's like, no, we want to build our own ideas. We want to improve ourselves, and we want the same for you. We want you to be able to improve your own ideas, and whatever. That's my personal thoughts on my personal goals as far as that. What about you? Similar?
Yeah, I think we've talked about this, and
we have.
That's why we're in agreement. But this project is not supposed to stop at the podcast. We want to build a community, a participating audience that is not just adding to the conversation. We want to provide a workshop, an online workshop for people to implement their own visions and to showcase them. Right. To, if you meet success, how do we copy that and stamp it in other communities? And so that's what I'm really excited about. That's where I think we're going to stand out with this podcast, is that it's not going to stop there, and all of the audience participation is not going to just stop at a comment section that
Right.
people are just shouting into the wind.
It'll take a little while to get there, but yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if somebody holds our feet to the fire and be like, well, this week you don't have it. This is a long set thing. I mean, we've been thinking about this for probably 4 or 5 years, so gradually increasing it. Go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off or anything.
So, yeah, what is civics? What are we trying to do here? It's really about the idea of moving away from the individuals in a society being looked at as consumers and as a network of people just transacting with each other into civilians. We're trying to reestablish what it means to be a civilian, to be someone with agency, someone who can solve their own problems. I would say you kind of have a responsibility to yourself to be as self-sufficient as possible. Basically, you don't want to be relying on the people in your lives or social nets. And you're going to be a lot happier if you can get to a point where you can take care of your own health, you can get a job, earn an income, and take care of your own mental health. Hopefully you have good relationships that are keeping you sane and stable. But beyond that, the next step is, okay, it's quite a feat to become self-sufficient, especially in today's age where there aren't the role models, there aren't the mentors to help you through that. And once you are, it takes building skill and facing fears and discipline, implementing, solutions to your problems to get to the point of self-sufficiency, and quickly you start landing into that world of surplus.
I think courage too.
Sure.
Especially if you're like on government programs or been controlled by the government anyway, actually getting out there and going, it takes courage. I think you also brought up a good point. I don't know if you actually did right now, but you previously, because you're talking about becoming good civilians, is that we've been turned into consumers as a personal unit rather than, civilians. And I think swapping back is very difficult, but do you have anything else about?
One of the ones that I think a lot of people would be interested in is these ways that we kind of build our identities politically. And, there's these words like libertarian, liberal, conservative, fascist, totalitarian that get thrown around, and people use them basically as like team colors, and they don't really know what the philosophies behind those ideologies or movements really are.
Or their meanings or their definitions.
Right. And if you do learn the terminology appropriately, you'll learn that there's a purist form to those ideologies, and almost no one fits in that box without effort. And it's not a good thing to be staying in that box. If you're authentic, you're going to deviate from these pure ideologies because there's trade-offs to all of them. And some of them are situational. Others are just, this is a maladaptive. Any rule set that you steadfast to and are purist about is going to be maladaptive. The environment shifts. There's an appropriate way to act in one environment, and then it's an inappropriate way to act in another.
I think one partial example of that is that I watch Jimmy Dore's show more than I probably should.
Why is that?
Once or twice a day. Why him? Because
no, I mean, why more than you should?
Because I could be doing something else with that time.
Oh, okay.
I mean, watching anyway. But I like him comparatively to, a lot of others. I think he's honest about what he thinks rather and it's not grandstanding like a lot of these channels are.
He's very encyclopedic too.
Yeah.
It's amazing
a lot of knowledge
what he can pull up.
Well, and the people working for him too are.
Yeah. But just on the spot, he's like, this person was a hypocrite this time and a decade ago.
Right.
Like, it's
what I don't like about him is that he'll be like, any good idea, any bad idea, whether it comes from like Republican or Democrat or whatever party, whatever philosophy, he'd be like, that's a right-wing idea. That's a right idea. Mm-hmm. And anything that's good is like, well, that's a left idea. And it's like, oh my God.
Yeah, the team sports.
Right.
And these ideologies should really be anchoring points, starting points of like, okay, well, this generally frames my attitude towards things. But then from there, you get all these trolley problems and the controversies that are going on, the news stories, and okay, how does my ideology play out? What's the solution in as it is cast against this news story? And if you're developing, I would say there's going to be times where it's like, well, if I was being a pure libertarian here, I don't have an answer, or my answer doesn't feel right, doesn't sit right.
Yeah, you have to further develop it, as well.
It's
and that's what like kind of this is for. You don't see you come up with an idea, you don't see your own blind spots. Even talking to people, the other person can identify your blind spots in your conversation. With 100 people, with 1,000 people, then you can really get some really good structures for your ideas and improve yourself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's a good point.
What other ideas?
Whataboutism is another one, because there you said like that term. It's like you have no idea where that term came from, and you do not know the context for that term. I mean, they're usually correct because that came from the Cold War.
Whataboutism did.
Yeah, because like Russia would do something. We'd say, Russia, you're bad for your civil rights abuse, and Russia would be like, well, maybe you should take the mote out of your own eye first because you are also doing civil rights abuses, right? So it's kind of on one side, it is kind of a deflection, but on the other side, it's like whataboutism is just a means to avoid hypocrisy,
I would say that the people who are charging people with whataboutism, they're basically saying that those people are trying to change the subject. And yeah, what they're blind to is that those people are trying to point out the hypocrisies. It's not a change of subject.
That's the thing. They don't understand what the meaning of it is.
The standard that you are judging my side for, you are guilty of too.
Right.
Whataboutism. And it's like, the point is, you can't be outraged for something that you're guilty of too.
Exactly. That's exactly it. Plus, you should tell them, because our families have a lot of left-wing people in them, mm-hmm. and you should just tell them, I didn't know you're turning in your now right-wing ideas because that was the Red Scare and McCarthyism back in there. It's like, now you've got right-wing ideas because whataboutism is the right-wing thing.
And to make it clear, I don't know about you, but I don't identify with left-wing or right-wing. I don't
No, politically homeless. That's what I call both of us.
And both of those terms, it's like, well, this would be going into that episode, but it's like, do you identify as...
I don't want to talk completely about
politically Southwest? Like, what does that even mean to, like, that direction? Like, directional, like, it can't mean anything beyond, like, I'm on this team.
Right.
So, there's no inherent meaning behind left or right.
If you take...
Historically, there is.
We took those political compass, and we're, like, both, like, really... near center or whatever. It's just because you're thinking like common sense ideas, look at the history of ideas or whatever. And
there's a false choice there too. It's like, are you on the left or are you on the right?
Right. Or
are
top
you my
or bottom,
enemy or are we going to agree on everything?
Or authoritarian or not. I think that's another type, just like equivocating that to sides, because everybody is on an individual issue to individual issue. It's just a way to like group us all together into one general pot or whatever. Let's see what else. The use of dopamine and clickbait and rage bait, as far as I think that's a big thing that is part that also goes in with the teams. Maybe we could connect those together, because it's like content like this will not get large fast, because you're actually like, we're gonna have disagreeing ideas. We're gonna have other people on that have disagreeing ideas for sure, right? And it's like not like today on Jimcast. Today on Jimcast, Trump.
This outrageous thing happened.
Trump did, yeah. What would that guy say?
Aren't these
Trump did a swan
terrible?
dive on a Sunday at 2 p.m. or like whatever. And then they start saying, because then you start getting to Civil War.
Yeah.
Civil War, and it's like, dude, just shh. Our context in the Old West, we used to have what do you think Tombstone is? It's Republicans and Democrats killing each other. That's how it was in the old days. You just go and be like, let's have a duel.
The robbers and the sheriffs,
or the Cowboys and the legal people at the time were the Republicans, I think, and the Cowboys were the Democrats at the time.
Oh, really?
Right?
Okay.
Yeah, and that's why they had political
land disputes and
land dispute, all sorts of disputes, and they just would go out and kill each other.
Public domain.
You look at Andrew Jackson, how many duels he just like going, okay, let's have a duel, and boom, it's like, and you think now is like, well, it's a quiet civil war. It's not two sides lining up. It's like, dude, we're just not as much of a violent society. Is there the capacity there? But yeah, but it's like you're one of those prophets, self-fulfilling prophecy. It's like if you keep on saying, or like the market is a good point. It's like it's gonna crash in a week. The market's gonna crash. A year later, it's anytime now the market, and then you go 5 years. It's like you don't know how long people are gonna support the market. Well, no, it's true. I mean, based on fundamentals, it should already have been, but the thing is that people buy up stuff, and you've got the FOMO thing for stocks or whatever. And
there's fundamentals and there's momentum.
Yeah.
I'd be interested in talking about, I think we had a vehicle of civics in the past in religion, in Christianity, in this country. And that's kind of been shunned into, I'm okay with you still being a Christian, just be quiet about it. Don't talk about it. And that was where a lot of the ideas of extending beyond yourself and goodwill, good faith, social trust, a lot of that was housed in Christianity. And without it, you have kind of the Friedman doctrine, where it's like the duty of a corporation is to maximize profit. And, we can mutually benefit through transaction, and that's about it.
Yeah.
And there's no... It's very utilitarian. We've lost the ontological argument for why it's beneficial to be a good person.
Yeah.
I'll be a friendly, civil person. I'll be polite, but that's just a nicety. That's just a greeting.
Right.
And how can we transact? And once that's done, or if you have nothing to offer, fuck off. Leave me alone. I'm trying to do my own thing. And I don't think it's a coincidence that religion kind of fell away from the public square at the same time that voluntarism did.
Yeah.
No one volunteers anymore. And that's not to wag my finger at people. I just think
as a
no wonder people feel alienated and isolated and useless.
To follow up on what you're saying is spiritualism. We talked about this before, but I think not necessarily religion, because I think religion had its own problems. I think it has nothing to do with the government. I think marriage should have been out of the government in the first place, and it shouldn't have been used as a
political football.
Right. I mean, I was a strong believer in civil unions before that, but maybe we had no other metrics at that time because, the old world, you had to be part of the religion or a religion. For me, it's more like spiritualism. I'm Christian, but I accept people like a content creator like Styx Hexenhammer.
Mm-hmm.
He talks on many spiritual subjects. He's not a Christian. He's not anything. I think at one time he was an atheist. But and I know a lot of people that are like, they used to be an atheist, but now they're spiritualists. They don't necessarily believe in any religion, and some people that believe in a God, but they don't necessarily believe in any religion. And I think that if you don't have spiritualism on that level, that you will seek something to replace that spirituality, which you talked about. Like, it could be activism, veganism, not necessarily like the worst things on earth, but it's just to show that humans will take something as a religion. And politics, for me, it's like, politics to me, like, if I used to have religious arguments about, like, that's not what this says here or whatever when I was little, when I was more religious, and people would just be like, I don't care, this is what, this is what I believe, this is what I was taught, type of thing, and they'd get completely psychopathic over it and start yelling. And now it's kind of like, your political beliefs are like that too. Like, you can agree with someone for 4 or 5 things, but you disagree with that one thing. All of a sudden, You're out of the club. You're out of the club. You're a devil.
Yeah,
whatever.
So that's something to get into with that episode too, is that we have this religious module in our brains that is tied up with the idea of the feeling of the need to belong. And people are, atheists might...
Yeah, that might...
They might plant a flag of victory there that they kind of killed or shunned away religion, but they didn't get rid of that religious impulse in people, and now they're just playing it out in politics, which is a very Jordan Peterson idea, but we can suss that out a little bit more.
Well, they also have the need to belong as well, atheists. So it's like you're creating your own religion. Well, it's not really a religion because they don't believe in a sacred entity. Plus. Yeah, but they're forming a community that has religious type ideas. So, okay, what else?
But I think that the key here is that ontological ethics is basically dead in the U.S. It's all utilitarian.
Yeah, that gets into... that's going to be a good conversation because, like we talked before, I personally don't really believe in good and evil and ethical arguments. What I don't believe in the way that those are defined as far as being good and evil and what's ethical and what is moral. Because to me, I'm more of a Greek thinker back in the day, or Aristotle kind of believes that there is one truth. Right, there's not your own personal truth. There's one truth, and we're all trying to working together to find that truth. And morality, if you have certain morals here, and in another country, it can be completely different. Killing someone for some reason in some parts of the world is what is moral. If some people call that extremist, but that is the general thought of the populace, and that is not here. So
I'm more concerned with, if I'm a utilitarian, I'm going to have no issue doing something that I would regard as shameful or wrong if I'm behind closed doors. And a lot of, I think, the decay that's under this gilded cover of our society is from those little, I'm going to take a shortcut here, I'm going to take a shortcut here. And that, why not if you're utilitarian?
All I can think of right now is, what are you doing behind closed doors, James? What
I mean.
Yeah.
I'm talking about more like, secretaries of treasury or, it's like, I can cut corners here because what's the difference? The only downside would be if I got caught and someone, didn't like, or people would frown upon that if they knew. And so it foments dishonesty. And I think honesty it has to be ontological in nature. You have to, and there was this Christian idea of God's always watching. So even if I know I'm the only one in the room, I know that God knows, or I know that I know, if you're going to be, non-superstitious about it.
That's a good point. I'm still like that. That's one thing. I even I don't think heaven works the way it does, but I still think, well, what if my grandpa's up there or my grandma's up there watching what I'm doing right now?
Yeah, and
it's like, all right.
you can't be authentic if you're not honest with yourself, obviously. But one of the reasons that's mechanically the case is that if someone judges you and you know that your intentions are good, then that judgment isn't going to stain, and you can continue on being like, you can continue on with your intention and continue on your way. But if you really don't believe in yourself, then that person's judgment is going to cast doubt on you. And
Right, yeah.
They caught me, I really am a bad person, and they caught me, and so how can I align with this person or this movement? And that's how people, I think, get captured ideologically, is that they are not ideologically honest with them. They don't have an honest identity that they're confident in.
True, yeah. I think that's
so it's like, I'm just going to join the crowd, the mob, so I'm not on that end. And the few people who stick out in history that, no, I'm not going to join your mob because I'm not about what you guys are about, even though you're shouting it at me. The only people who can do that are the people who know what their intentions are and know that their intentions don't align with the mob.
Yeah. I was just writing down the role of biology as far as this goes. 'Cause you talk about many things like that. The sheep mentality, things are safer in the herd, if that plays any factor into... I think it does to a degree, but I think it's a more lesser degree. For our lizard brains...
So you want maybe an episode on the physiology of social
Well, it's also
interactions
things like good and evil. Like, can animals be evil? 70% would say no, they can't. But they can also reason. They can also have their own societies. It just isn't built up, and things like that. Things that we say that... Things that we take for granted, and things we don't consider what kind of part that biology plays into it as far as social media and our current institutions go.
Well, and there's all the proximals for good too. There's being polite or being agreeable, and it's like, are you good or are you a coward?
Yeah, I don't even believe in that stuff. That's why I'm a solo guy or something.
You're a lone wolf.
I'm a lone wolf. I'm one of those. No, but that's what I tried explaining about Trump. Trump's ideas to me are not any different than most ideas that have already been in our political spectrum for the most part. We've had people say the same thing. The thing is that we haven't had people say it in the same way that he says it,
Which matters to the elites.
Right.
Decorum is like...
And that's when I talk with people. I've talked to people like at work and other places, and it's like, well, it's not what he's actually saying, and it's not his policies. The reason he's so horrible is because of he's mean, or the way he's saying it. And it's like, really? It's like, I don't care. You could have great policies that look like a turd, or you could have a turd that looks like great policies. That was stupid, huh? Well, I was gonna go somewhere with that, and it's like, no. But you can have what is it? I think there's cake tasting crap or crap that tastes like cake. Which would you?
Neither of those sound like a good option to me.
Right. That's why I was like, no, I'm not doing this because I heard that somewhere before. But
it would be great to have an episode on the degradation of the institutions and how they are completely bankrupt of any trust of the public right now. And there's just been a parade of scandals that have never been admitted. Some have, but there's just so many undeniable events that have happened where it's like, you were clearly lying, and a liar's never going to admit, yeah, I was lying, or very rarely.
Very
but
rarely, yeah.
I know, that I know. And fine. The corporate media is never going to cop up to it, but
well, they might
but
in
the
really,
evidence is
really
out
small prints after it's like after an article's been out for 3
Right,
months in really
right.
small print at the end.
that would be a hard episode to do early on because so much of it, like COVID, is such a bottomless pit for a lot of that
No, that'd be something to build up to.
corruption. I want to talk about how we intend to engage the audience because I don't want it to just end at a comment section. I want the audience to feel like if they make a point, we might pick up that point and talk
Well,
about it at length. We might pull someone in for an interview.
First, we need to have an audience, James.
Yeah, but
I mean, we can think about it now, but I mean, I wouldn't say that's. You didn't mean as a subject matter. You just mean like that's something we should discuss. I wouldn't say that that's like something we should discuss. Like have a
I think it's
session.
I think it's worth discussing on camera because we can say like, here's what you have to offer for listening to us, bland, stumbling, inarticulate people.
We can work it in.
Yeah.
No, I want to talk about that, but no.
I mean, we have a website domain. Like, how are we going to put that to use? I think we should have a workshop space for people to try
Two
out
dudes
their
living
own.
we're not living in someone's basement, but that's the thing. It's going to be slow rolling. So at first, that I think comments, super chats, and things like that are going to have to do it for the beginning. I mean, we'd like to get something else going as soon as possible, but it's going to take some work to get up. Trying to think of anything else that's already out there that we can utilize. Well, yeah, maybe it should be on video because maybe somebody else knows an idea. Hey, I've seen this, platform.
We can start with Discord.
You can do a forum. Yeah, you can do
Yeah.
Discord. You can do a forum. Reddit would probably immediately kick us out and boot us because they're
Filthy commies.
they're filthy communists. But yeah, I'm sure there are things like that. And maybe we'll get better interaction with that. I don't know. Really, I think it's going to be, we're going to have to bounce a bunch of things out there to see what we get actually the most responses from. Because it may be that people, for the most part, we get a lot of lower to medium quality, let's say, comments. Let's say we do a stream and decide to, do super chats. I don't even know if you can do those without having to pay money for them, and you might get like very short comments of things, but then how many people, maybe if that's the breadth, or no, that's, am I getting it wrong? Breadth and width?
Depth.
Breadth and depth. Yes, that's the breadth, where they're deeper. The people who have deeper knowledge or want deeper interaction would actually go to a forum and like write
To the
out.
website.
Right.
Okay.
Might be a good mix. We'll have to see. Yeah. I don't think. Okay, so those are discussion topics. We've got probably like 100 more. You get to select the next topic. So select one, hopefully before you leave, because you'll be going on vacation.
Yeah, the political topics, the political terminology, really. The discourse around political terminology bugs me.
I don't like that subject. So there'd be like, okay, what is?
We can maybe even jump into it right now if you want to cut this, and I have another hour.
I'm not. We could start out. I'm not prepared. Yeah, 55. So if you got another hour, all right, let's do that. Well, then again, I might just cut out the brainstorming and then just go on to this. I don't know.
Well, is there a topic that you would rather?
No.
Just shoot.
I like this topic.
About? Okay.
It's just I'd like to more examples so we could like visually show it because we're doing screen share and stuff like that too, rather than.
And we're gonna have to play off of like, is it better to prepare for these, or I think, frankly, our dry run last week or whenever we did it was smoother conversationally than this, where we did attempt more structure. So I don't know. Maybe let's just have the topic and then we can think about it. I can build up my background, you can build up yours, and then we come together without a fixed outline.
Right. I don't believe in having a fixed outline as far as that goes. But today was just the introduction, so it was. Yeah, I mean, it's still maybe send me any files that you've got stuff prepared and whatnot for it, and then we could. You present those as examples. I would think we'll both research it on our own. We'll both come back and just have a conversation about it, all the problems on it. But I think part of it should be like how we would resolve. How do we resolve those problems? How do we resolve those issues moving forward?
I think let's have a distinct topic, like a 3 or 4 word topic. That is our episode. That's the only interaction you and me are going to have before an episode starts. We'll set the topic a week ahead of time, come up with our own material that we want to talk about on that topic, show up, have the natural conversation, and then after that, as kind of like a way to tie it together, after we talk about the things we want to talk about in podcast form, I will share the content, the clips and stuff, where it's like, as you're cutting this up, you can pair it with this background literature, these links, these sources.
You mean in edit or in?
Because you are going to chop the podcast up into clips, right?
On some platforms, the YouTube, I wasn't. That's why I didn't upload.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just gonna. Yeah, because some places short form content. Well, I mean, do we have to really worry about that now that app? What the two of the short form apps are kind of defunct now. I mean, the one Trump brought back. What is that? Not. What's the one that was banned?
TikTok.
Yes, TikTok. I was thinking Redbook because I think Little Red Book is the Chinese one that everybody went to after
Funny.
TikTok.
Everyone flooded into the other Chinese spy tool app. No, I think it is going to be important to have clips. First off, it's going to allow us to post more regularly, like throughout the week.
Yeah.
In between. And you look at a podcast like Modern Wisdom with Chris Williamson. Do you know him?
Yeah.
He'll do these interviews, but then he does the clips that are kind of the... I'm not going to just jump into a 2 or 3 hour conversation. Like, if I'm a YouTube browser, I'm not going to...
No,
I'd love to put on a 3 hour thing. You get like this 10 minute... You're looking for 10 to 20 minutes maybe, tops, of like a clip. And then it's like if that clip's engaging enough, I want to listen to this whole conversation. And then that's where you kind of direct people to the full duration.
Yeah. Well, I was also thinking about the short form, the
5 or 10 second.
Well, or
Where they have like
Savage explains the episode or something like that.
Yeah,
dude, I'm doing it. I don't know.
All right, fine.
You didn't have any problem.
Like
the more you hear it,
dumb Gen
the more serious you find out I am about it. That's like, at first you're like, oh no, I'm fine with it, and then it's like, oh wait, he's getting serious.
Yeah,
he's getting serious.
God.
Don't do it.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's what I'm talking about. It's still professional, but it's something that's more of a lighthearted and not explaining the episode or anything, but very, very, very very short form. Not anything like you're talking about. I think 5 minutes maximum. We're just like talking about. I don't know. The patriarchy is my default thing, even though I don't believe in it.
The patriarchy.
I don't know.
Why do they have to cause so many problems?
Yeah, I think we're good. It'll get smoother as we go. We don't have a close yet, so. What should I do? What's our close? Until next time.
With a hat tip.
All right, we're out.
We'll work on it.